Hello. Today I'm going to show you how I would set up the projectile sensor to photograph some shooting bullets. So I've already set up the projectile sensor here, and that's my pellet gun. And I like this kind of barrel on a pellet gun because I can put this rod right through like this, and this allows me to get everything lined up. So I just use this rod. I've actually got some markings on this rod. I don't know how they're going to show up, but that first one's 12 inches. So I'm going to line that up with the sensors there. So now I know 12 inches past this set of sensors is where the projectile will be once I've finished setting up the software. But so I set this up. I set up my target. So I've already set up the height, but you'd kind of get it. So now you know exactly where the bullet's going to be going. You can get it perfectly lined up. And I know that that's 12 inches. Now, I actually don't want the bullet right there when I take the shot, because then the bullet would be, photographed just before it actually hits the target. So probably put in, let's say 13 inches is the distance that I'm going to want to use on this projectile sensor shot. So we'll go back here, remove the rod, and let's go to home screen. Okay, so first thing I would probably do is I'd probably go to the camera flash settings, and I know for the projectile sensor, I don't want to have any delays in here. I want the things triggering as fast as possible. Other than that, the defaults here are fine. So let's just do a test trigger. Oh, what? I don't know. Here, okay, so test trigger, you see it lights up those green lights. And it's also lighting here to do another one, and it's also triggering the flash. I don't know if that's going to show up on video or not, but it is triggering this high-speed LED flash. So I'm happy with those. I'll go back home. Now I'm going to go into the projectile sensor, and all of these values. So what you'd normally want to do is you'd want to, there's some, can I get rid of some of that glare here if I go at this angle? So it's showing you the current values that are coming out of the projectile sensor. There's two different settings, so 265 and 285. And then if I put my hand right over it, you can see that the value jumps up much higher. So with the projectiles, the value won't jump that high because they're pretty small. But what this lets you do is you know that when a projectile passes through, it's going to be a higher value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set these values to be a little bit higher than they currently are. So let's see, maybe 272 or something for that one. And whoops, that's wrong. I was looking at the one. So this first one should be about 272. The second one should be like 292 or something. Just some value it never reaches. And in reality, it's best to do this with the lights off, which is how you're going to take the photos. But for this example, I'll just do it in the light. I think it'll be sensitive enough to still trigger. But basically, when you turn off the lights, there's going to be some background IR that goes off, and you'll see these values actually drop down. I just tried it a little while ago, and I think it dropped down by about 5 or 6 units when I turned off the lights. But I'll just leave it on like it is now. So these values have to be just a little bit higher than the current values it's reading. And then the distance is in hundredths of inches, so that would be 12 inches right there. But what I really want is 13 inches, as we discussed before. Offset time, I'm just going to leave that at 0. You could set this to 1200, and that would be 12 inches, and then add in some offset time in microseconds. But for me, it's just easier to position the bullet rather than giving it some additional offset time in addition to the time it takes it to reach this point. So that's basically all that you need to do. And then you'd go into, you could hit the test trigger mode, and that's just going to test, that's going to trigger all the flashes again. But for this, we're good to go. So we hit photo mode, and now it's ready to take a photo, and you can actually kind of test it with your finger. If you just go through there, so I moved pretty slow, so it detected my finger was moving at 1 foot per second. Now if I go faster, there, I got it up to 3, and the bullet's going to go at, like, 900,000 feet per second. So that's pretty much all there is to setting it up. I have the flash connected right like that to port 1. The camera I haven't set up yet, but that'll just be set. I'm going to trigger that manually and have it use a long exposure time, like 5 seconds. So I'll hit the shutter button, then I'll pull the trigger on the gun, and it'll photograph the bullet in flight 13 inches past this point. And that's really all there is to it. The reason I'm doing it in a dark room, if you're not familiar with this kind of photography, it's because you're using the flash to freeze the motion. Cameras are just much too slow, so you've got to use a flash to freeze the motion of the bullet. So that's pretty much it. I'll throw in some examples of the photos I got in this test shoot, but hopefully this helps you understand how this beta version of the CA6 is working. Thanks for watching.